Hey boys and girls, it's Pastor Young here. This is for all of our John Wesley kids. During this Christmas time, we want to remember that Jesus truly is the reason for the season. So today, during our story time, I want to introduce you to a book entitled Brown Baby Jesus. Come on, let's read together. Brown Baby Jesus, written by Dorena Williamson. Mary and Joseph made their way through the Egyptian marketplace with their brown baby Jesus in tow. Jesus' eyes took in the traders from near and far. His little nose filled the scents of the fruit, bread, and spices. His face lit up the sight of children threading colorfully clay beads. Just weeks before, Magi from the east and the west visited the family in Bethlehem, bringing gold, frankincense, and myrrh to honor Jesus as the King of the Jews. After the Magi left, the angel warned Joseph in a dream that King Herod was angry about their visit and wanted to kill Jesus. While the family fled to Egypt, jealous Herod sent his soldiers to kill all the baby boys 2 years and younger. "Look, Abba, soldier," Jesus exclaimed, seeing the soldiers reminded Joseph of the angel's warning. Mary thought about when they took Jesus to the temple. A man named Simeon said that Jesus would reveal God's light to people all over the world. But he also said that Mary's heart would feel sorrow because some would want to hurt Jesus. Resting her chin in her bushy hair, Mary held her son close and prayed for God's peace. As the family walked beside the Nile River, Mary and Joseph were reminded of another baby boy. Long ago, the great leader Moses had been placed in this river to protect him from another angry ruler. Moses' little basket bobbed along until it floated right by the prince of Egypt, who raised him as her own son. When Moses grew up, God used him to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt and lead them to the promised land. "One day, you too will be a deliverer," Joseph spoke over Jesus as they watched and trade ship disappeared from view. As Mary spun wool into yarn, she thought about the words Joseph had spoken. She knew that God had mapped out a special story for her son that spawned many generations and even included different nations. The red yarn reminded Mary of how God had saved his people long ago in the city of Jericho. A woman named Rahab placed a red cord in her window after helping 2 Israelite spies escape the city. Because of her courage and faith, God saved her and her family from Jericho's destruction. Mary knew that through her brown baby, God would save all people from destruction. His very name meant the Lord saves. Can you say that with me? The Lord saves. As she made bread, Mary thought about the widow Ruth. Ruth had picked up leftover grain so she and her mother-in-law Naomi would have something to eat. Although Ruth was from a foreign land, God gave her a place among his people. When she married Boaz, she became the great-grandmother of King David. David then married Bathsheba, a widow who God comforted with the birth of a son named Solomon. When she grew up, Solomon built the temple, a special place of worship for God's people. God kept showing up for his people, replacing death and sorrow with life and joy. Then he made his own home with humankind when Jesus entered the world wrapped in a brown skin of a newborn baby. His coming was good news of great joy for all people. Mary smiled, knowing that her son would be a greater king than his ancestors, David, and that he would reign forever. Mary understood that God had shown mercy from generation to generation. She knew that mercy had been poured out for a widow named Tamar, who was mistreated and alone until God blessed her with 2 sons. She had seen mercy flown to her cousin Elizabeth, who was given a miracle son even in her old age. She had felt God's mercy in Anna, an elderly woman at the temple, who is excited to meet the newborn Jesus, God's promised deliverer. And as Mary looked at her brown baby, she saw him, God's promise of mercy for all people. Like a weaver using colorful threads that make a beautiful cloth, God had designed quite a story for Mary's brown baby Jesus. An uncommon story that included royals, a welcoming story that included foreigners, a loving story that included heartbroken widows, a magnificent story that included humble people like Mary and like Joseph. As the sun set and the moon rose in the African sky, Mary watched her brown baby Jesus climb into Joseph's arm. "Story, Ema?" he asked, gazing at her expectation. Thinking of all she had held in her heart throughout the day, Mary knew the perfect story to tell. Her heart rejoiced as she began to tell her son about his earthly family. In the beginning, God took soil from the ground and made Adam and made Eve in his very image, she began. Later, a man named Noah found favor with God and was saved from the flood. God told Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, to be fruitful and fill the earth. And that's what they did. Many nations formed and spread far, and they spread wide. From Shem came your ancestors like Abraham, Judah, and David, Joseph said, picking up from where Mary had left off. And from Ham came your ancestors, Tamar, Rahab, and Bathsheba. These 2 lines blended together, their blood runs even through you. Your woolly hair, your brown skin are a beautiful part of how God made you and who you come from, Mary added. God promised our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, that every family on the earth would be blessed through them. And God kept his promise through the generations that led to me, Ema, and even you now, Joseph said, finishing the story. Then Mary sang a psalm over their brown baby boy. The family stayed in Egypt for many years until one night an angel told Joseph that it was safe for the family to return to Israel. "We're going home, son," Joseph said as they began their journey. And in Nazareth, Jesus continued to grow up, full of wisdom and of grace. Family, this is the story of brown baby Jesus, our reason for this Christmas season. I pray that you have a very Merry Christmas, and until we meet again, God be with you.